How do we beat the scourge of essay mills? Hi guys, welcome back to TOK Today. I'm Daniel and I'm honoured to have you with me. So essay mills are online sites that will write essays for students. The students can send their whatever their needs are off to these places, and someone somewhere in a far off place writes an essay for them and sends it back. Now, disclaimer, I don't think that I've had a problem with essay mills from any of the students that I've taught over the years. I was really lucky to work with great students in schools that had very high standards and expectations around academic integrity. However, I think this is a problem from what I read in the education press and from my discussions with other TOK teachers and generally within IB for all IAs, all coursework and EAs in the IB, it's a potential problem. So I thought it would be something useful for us to look at here today. So this video is made for teachers, but students, if you're watching this, then I'd just like to say do not use essay mills. Just don't. It's a really, really bad idea. It's a bad idea for a number of reasons. First of all, it's just unethical. Having someone else doing your work for you is not principled, it's not honourable, it doesn't fit with any of the characteristics of the IB learner profile. It's not the sort of person that you want to be. But secondly, second reason, don't do it for practical reasons, just purely utilitarian reasons. You don't know whether the essay that's written for you in the essay mill is going to be better than the essay that you could write yourself. A lot of research shows that essays written in essay mills are mediocre at best. They come back mediocre. The next practical reason why not to do it is one of being caught, plagiarism. There's a lot of research that shows that the essay mills are recycling essays, maybe changing a few words here and there, but they're just using the same essays over and over again. And particularly with the TOK essay, where there are only 6 titles, so they can write pretty standard essays and just recycle those over and over again. And those recycled essays are going to get caught. They're going to get caught by the IB. So just on that purely sort of utilitarian ground, don't do it because you risk your whole diploma. The third sort of practical reason, students, for not doing it, for not using essay mills, is that you're missing out on a really important skills building experience. By doing the IB TOK essay, you're going to learn skills which will serve you when you get to university, and more importantly will serve you in life. The skills that you learn from the TOK essay are really crucial for your career and for further life. So go through the process of the TOK essay with your teacher. That's all you need. You don't need extra sort of essay mills writing stuff for you, and you will build great skills from that which will serve you for the rest of your life. I sort of think of using essay mills a bit like going to a restaurant, paying for the food and then having someone else eat the food for you. Yeah, you've paid for it, but you don't get any of the benefits of actually having that meal. Okay, back to teachers. How do we avoid the scourge of students using essay mills? So the reason for making this video is I've been writing a book on how to teach the TOK essay using a skills-based approach. And I came to the section on ensuring academic integrity. And I thought, well, I know what I do, but what's best practice? So I started to look at some of the academic research which has been done on academic integrity, and I particularly looked at academic research in high schools. And what I found sort of surprised me. It also confirmed some of the things that I knew already, but also it surprised me, and I'll come to those surprises later on in the video. I'll hold on that little box of surprises.
Get on with it, Daniel.
So my starting point was that what I see a lot of the time is people using after the act of writing the essay, systems or processes for ensuring academic integrity. So the first one that virtually all TOK teachers use, but I'll include it just in case, is a sort of monitoring system as the essay is written. So typically I would ask my students to write their essays in Google Docs and share those Google Docs with me. We would use Google Classroom Suite so that I could watch the progression of the essay over the weeks in which it was being written. That's pretty standard practice, and it works quite well. The second system that I know is very widely used is sort of plagiarism checking software, like Turnitin.com, and that software definitely has a place, it's definitely important. Just a word on plagiarism checking software. I sometimes see people using it as a checking system after the essay has been written, a sort of policing system. I know it's being used like this when I hear people say, what's the acceptable percentage on Turnitin.com? Like, can you have a 20% similarity match or a 5% similarity match? And of course, that statistic is real nonsense if you understand how Turnitin.com works. You could have a 20% similarity match, which seems quite high, but that's just because the student is repeatedly using the phrases in the TOK essay title, and they're using it over and over again, and Turnitin is coming up and it's finding that title used in lots of other papers. And of course, that's quite good practice that the student is using the terms which are in the prescribed title. It means that they're focused on the prescribed title. Equally, you could have a really low Turnitin score, like 3% or 2%, right? And when you actually look at the essay, you could find that the student has copied 100%, cut and paste, a whole paragraph from another paper somewhere else. And in that situation, that's blatant plagiarism, even though the Turnitin score is low. But I'm not here to sort of decry or to do down plagiarism checking software, because it really has a place, but its place is in the development of the essay and not after the fact, or not so much after the fact. So I would always set my students up with Turnitin accounts and ask them to keep putting their work into Turnitin. One, to do that plagiarism check, but two, because when they look at the similarity report, it references papers that have been written and submitted to Turnitin, which have got similar concepts or the same concepts in them as the one that the student is writing. And in that situation, it's really useful for the student to then click on that paper and to have a read about what someone else has written, and that helps them to develop their own ideas, their process of synthesis and synopsis. They get to write a better paper for themselves. So use Turnitin as an educational tool rather than as a sort of policing tool after the fact. And the third type of after writing process which I see used for sanctioning might be writing the essay under controlled conditions, or doing a viva voce to check that the work really is that student. And that's pretty draconian stuff, isn't it? None of us like to do that with our students, and we don't want to get into that situation. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we avoid that situation, and some of my recent findings briefly from some of the academic research which I've been looking at. Let's get into it. So back to the academic research. Now obviously the research showed what we all know, that academic malpractice comes about because of either a lack of confidence in the student lacks confidence in their ability to complete the task, or the student feels that they don't have time or they've mismanaged the process. Okay? Now, those two things together lead us to the ideas around self-regulated learners, and we're trying to improve our students' self-regulation in their learning. That's why I've started this channel, TOK Today, because the way to improve self-regulation is through skills teaching rather than through content teaching, and I want this channel to focus on skills. So I'm reading this academic research for the book. I can start to get deeper into the ideas around self-regulated learning. So for those of you who either don't know or just don't remember the ideas around self-regulated learning, let me give you a definition first and some of the characteristics of self-regulated learners. I go to my notes. So self-regulated learning is a cyclical process wherein the student plans for a task, monitors their performance on that task, and then reflects on the outcome of their performance on the task and the outcome of the task itself. The cycle then repeats itself as the student uses reflection to adjust and prepare for the next task. And that definition comes from Zimmerman in 2002. All the references that I use here, I'm going to put in the blog, so you can go over to the blog. There'll be a lot more detail in there, and you can see all the academic references there. So that definition of a self-regulated learner, we know that learner, we see them in our TOK classroom, and we know that that learner is not going to be using essay mills or other forms of plagiarism or academic dishonesty problems. So what are the characteristics of these self-regulated learners? Well, there are lots of resources on the internet where you can find research and information on the self-regulated learner characteristics. The site that I really like is Victoria State Education Department in Australia. They've got a great website. Again, I'll put the link in the blog. And they've got lots of information on there. And they come up with four main characteristics of self-regulated learners. First of all, they say that self-regulated learners set goals. They set goals for themselves, and they set quite advanced goals for themselves. Self-regulated learners use self-monitoring tools as they are completing their task or working through a task. They're constantly self-monitoring their performance on that task. Self-regulated learners model advanced learning strategies, and we'll go into that more on a future video. And finally, self-regulated learners pose advanced self-reflection questions at the end of the task in order to inform their performance on the next task. So reading this research on self-regulated learners and the link to academic dishonesty or academic honesty, academic integrity, of course it was saying things that I knew. I sort of implicitly knew this and had implicitly been doing it, but hadn't sort of explicitly put these things together in such a way. And then I started to click about how we plan the TOK essay process and how we deliver the TOK essay process. So I started to read further on the good practices, the good teaching or instructional practices around self-regulated learning. It became clear to me that we can redesign the TOK essay development process so that we explicitly deliver the development of self-regulated learning in the TOK essay. One of the interesting pieces of research that I read, it said that self-regulated learning is not generalised across domains. So just because a student is self-regulated in one subject doesn't mean that they're a self-regulated learner in another subject. And therefore we have to explicitly teach those practices in each of the subjects. I then looked at some research that said that the highest skill which leads to self-regulated learning is reading comprehension skills. And I thought, yeah, I know that implicitly. Didn't know that it had been empirically shown, and there was lots of research that empirically shows that. And I thought, the TOK essay, of course, requires very high reading skills. So are we explicitly teaching those reading skills in the TOK essay development process? I imagine that language A teachers are. Yeah? I'm a humanities teacher. I can't say that I explicitly taught reading comprehension as part of the TOK essay process. But now I'm going to design a set of activities around teaching it now that I've seen some of the research. The second most important characteristic which leads to self-regulated learning skills is writing capability or writing competencies. Again, absolutely central to the TOK essay process. And the research that I looked at showed a range of strategies for developing students' writing capabilities, which we could easily put into the TOK development process. So this got me thinking widely about that TOK development process. in the past, what I've done is I've sort of done that thing where, get the students to think about what the essay title means themselves on their own, and then put them into collaborative groups and of the same essay titles, and get them to share ideas and synthesis and synopsis, and they develop their own better ideas, and get them to write a paragraph and the introductory paragraph, and we'll all look at the introductory paragraph and I'm thinking, no. I need to be explicitly teaching reading comprehension alongside this, and I need to be explicitly teaching writing capability alongside this, not just thinking, they're just going to bring that in from language A or from humanities or whatever other subjects they do. Now, I need to be teaching it for TOK and borrowing some of those teaching strategies from language A. Now, I may be telling you something that all the other TOK teachers in the world already know. You may be sat there saying, we already do that, I already know that. And it might just be me. But I suspect it isn't. I suspect that quite a few of us, it would be useful for us to look more at the practices of instruction around self-regulated learning and to adapt that for the TOK classroom. So, what are the big takeaways from this? If we build self-regulated learning practices at the beginning of the TOK essay process, then what we're doing is a sort of integrated three-part process. The first part of that process is we're teaching preparation for the TOK essay. The next part of that process is we're developing self-regulated learning in TOK. And the third part of that process is that we're teaching for academic integrity without harping on about academic integrity and without sort of threatening and having a big stick over the top. We're preventing rather than having to cure after a problem has happened. So that's a sort of three-way integrated process. Now, I'm going to be producing more resources on this as we go along, but you can find some of the early ones on the blog associated with this video, which is linked in the video description to this video. I hope that's been useful for you. I thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, hit like please, and if you want more of this content, which would be really great if you'd hit subscribe. Have a talktastic day. Bye for now. Bye.